Greetings, everyone. It is Uncle Vigilante, and I'm here to bring you some news, some very important news that I am rebranding. I am changing the channel from the Uncle Vigilante channel to the Lower the Curve channel, because my presence here with my two guests is going to do nothing but lower the curve, because I have two of the smartest gentlemen in my operating reality. One you've met before. Well, both of you.
You're not fooling anyone with that humble bullshit, man. Not anybody.
Not anymore.
Very polite of you, but come on.
So there's the man himself, Todd Lewis. He is chief poobah of epic.tech in our ecosystem, and so he has forgotten more about blockchain technology than we'll ever know. And the other gentleman I have is Mr. P. You've seen him around. He kind of keeps coming back like a good rash. So thank you, Mr. P. But Mr. P is the CEO of two tech companies, so he can talk him some tech. And I thought it would be really fun to get these two guys that speak the same language, both lead developments and developers, who that's a whole different ball of wax when you start dealing with the people who
and this synergy has already revealed an important breakthrough, which is we've wanted for a long time to have a second independent implementation of Epic in a different programming language. You know, Rust is our primary. We love Rust. It's perfect for what we're doing. Mm-hmm. It'd be really nice to have a second implementation. And with us getting our brains together here in the pre-call, Uncle V, we realized that you're going to do it in Visual Basic for us, man. This is going to be fantastic. We've been looking for years for someone to do this, and you've been here the whole time.
You know what my shirt says I'm an adult, but not like a real adult.
So Todd Lewis, Uncle V's actual nighttime hobby is machine language, right? So he just gets down and does some machine language coding. And he's old school zeros and ones.
There you go.
Old school.
All I wanted to do growing up was smash ones and zeros together. And while other guys were getting the girls, man, nobody could put ones and zeros together better than me. And yet here I am, I have a YouTube channel. See what good that got me. Look, Mike, let's start with you real quick. Why don't you just give a little bit of backstory, and then and everybody knows Todd Lewis because everybody has seen the video, and everybody loves them some Todd Lewis because he is able to speak into existence that which is complicated and succinctly make it accessible. So thank you. So Pooch, why don't you start there, my man?
Sure, and I'll give the Cliff Note version because I've had plenty of previous videos with you. But the Cliff Note version is I have a CCAS platform. We're 100% hosted up in the cloud. We were cloud native from the start. We started back in 2012, 2013. We do real-time communications, and we were early adopters of WebRTC. I say all of that because to get to where we are today, where we compete with these massive companies like Five9, even Zoom, Genesis, you have to have a lot of really smart developers. And when you go up into the cloud, and when you're born in the cloud, it's a total different experience than literally taking your box and putting it up in the cloud. And that's what a lot of the early folks did, right? They didn't write specific cloud native code. But when you get up there, it's kind of the wild, wild west. And you've got to be very, very safe and very secure with everything, because you've got everybody's information up there. And by the way, we do communications, so we're responsible for the routing of it. So I'm privileged here to be able to meet Todd Lewis face to face on this call, because from my perspective, knowing what I know about our own development efforts and struggles that we've been through, and knowing that we have a total paid community, right, on our side, right, we pay everybody, to see what you guys have done, Todd, with Epic is, to me, it's the most remarkable thing I've ever seen, because you've got probably some of the brightest engineers all over the world that you have to pull together organize, and get them all kind of pushing in the same direction. And a lot of them are probably so smart that they don't need any help or they don't like working with others. And to be able to do that with a group of volunteers, I take my hat off to you. I mean, it's amazing what you've done. And so I'm just excited to learn more about, your process.
That's nice of you, man. But like, I'm just one of the volunteers, just like all the other guys. And we just hop on Telegram and figure it out together. So, it's as much as I'd, like to be the Wizard of Oz pulling the levers behind the curtain. It really is a team sport. So, it's good to have this many guys who all believe in privacy and want to turn Epic into a coin that's going to make the world a better place. And that really makes it easy for us to work together to make it happen.
Hey, Todd, that's
cool.
one thing that really impacted folks about Epic, its use case, not just being privacy coin, but making the world a better place. Would you kind of revisit that with ultimately the mobile mining and how that can impact people in places that might not be the West?
I mean, the idea that a privacy coin is some kind of special feature, having a form of money that doesn't expose the entirety of your business to the outside world for 6,000 years, that's just been called money.
Right.
Yep.
It's not an exotic feature, right? And I mentioned this last time. We have business records literally for 6,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, that's 60 centuries times 5. That's 300 generations of businessmen and women, all across the planet.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of ledgers. We got a lot of invoices. We got a lot of angry litigation threats.
Mm-hmm.
We got, I mean, like in cuneiform on clay tablets from ancient Sumeria. I don't know if you've ever read these, but they're hilarious because they are the Karenest, I demand to talk to the manager shit you've ever seen in your life.
So Todd Lewis, so I agree with you, right? In fact, I used this last night, Uncle V, when we were on the show last night, and I said, if I gave Uncle V $1 and he gave it to his wife and then she gave it to the pool boy, he would not know that dollar originally came from me. So that's, basically in my mind, I think that's what we're doing with Epic. But can you explain that a little bit? Can you explain why the way we're doing it is better? And when I say better, it's lighter, right?
Yeah, for 6,000 years, people had privacy in their money. And then recently, this anti-feature developed where in more primitive forms of digital money, for a very brief moment in time, they don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we're talking about getting the band back together and giving people a fundamental tool they need to do business in a civilized way. And privacy coins are supposed to be some kind of exotic,
evil, dark web,
evil kind of thing, right? And it's just propagandistic nonsense, right? Show me the people who given monetary systems that do offer privacy, choose not to use it. Show me anywhere in human history that has ever been the case, that people just take their ledgers and publish them in classified ads.
BTC Maxis.
So Todd Lewis, let me ask you a question though. So is a lot of people that are either new to crypto or thinking about getting into crypto, they hear about privacy, they hear about Monero, they've heard about potentially Pirate Chain. And then we use Mimblewimble as our protocol, but can you explain, because that obviously sounds like Harry Potter, but a lot of people get anxious about it. So can we take some of the mystery away from that and just kind of explain at its core what it does?
Yeah. Mimblewimble is the privacy protocol that has made the other privacy protocols obsolete. All right. Mimblewimble is the first privacy protocol ever in the era of digital money that has a simple and reliable mechanism for generating privacy. And that mechanism is really simple. It uses abstract algebra, right? So the mathematics of whole numbers and elliptic curves and Peterson commitments, and things you can read in the technical white paper. And the math's not that complicated. If you wanted to put some work in, you can make decent progress in terms of understanding the mechanics of how the proofs work. But I'm going to skip over that, right? And every transaction in Mimblewimble has a mathematical proof that the number of coins that go out of the transaction is equal to the number of coins that come into the transaction. Okay, so I send in $20, 15 of it goes to you, 5 of it comes back to me as change, right? You know, that's the input and the output. And the output, 15 plus 5 equals 20. Mimblewimble uses this somewhat esoteric kind of mathematics to provide a proof that the outputs are equal to the inputs without letting people see what the quantities are. Okay.
So does it store it though? Is it stored somewhere, or is it?
Well, I mean, it's stored encrypted. Okay. And only with your wallet can you decrypt it. So you know, like, is the information there can become an angels on the head of a needle question when you're talking about encryption systems, right? You know, it can be there in the information theory sense, but not in the security sense. And it can get a little subtle talking about whether the information is there or in what sense the information is there, right? But it's encrypted, and Epic uses the same encryption primitives as other chains do. And we go a step further, we actually are more algorithm agnostic by design. That's one of our major features. We have modular proof of work algorithms, and pay a lot of attention to changes in algorithms over time. Epic is not designed on the assumption that crypto that's good today is going to be good in 10 years. In fact, it's designed with the opposite assumption to try to create long-term safety for the chain. But we use the same encryption as everybody else and use that to preserve the security.
Sorry for, I was just trying to understand a little bit more about the proof of work piece. That the algorithm you said is different. Can you explain to the non-technical folks out there, like how it's different and why that's better?
I absolutely can, but first, did I answer your question about Mimblewimble, or do you want to follow up on that? Because it is a different topic.
I have one question regarding Mimblewimble.
Yeah.
Is what I thought was there was just no information then in the transaction. That's the way I understood it, that it's just gone. So it's like future proof. So one day you would have somebody with advanced AI be able to go in and ultimately reverse engineer it. But what I understand is with Monero and XMR, that data still is, that transaction still is there. It's just hidden. Can you just kind of explain when you say
the ways that Monero and Zcash and Epic encrypt the data and provide the hiding, it's a multifaceted question, okay? And so it's difficult to give you a simplistic answer, but I can give you a few simple data points, okay? Epic is by far the simplest because we have the most powerful mechanism. Mimblewimble runs absolute circles around ZK Snark and Monero's mechanism and whatnot. And it's, in my opinion as an engineer, it's stronger, right? It's simpler and it's stronger because it solves the problem in a clean, elegant, and direct way. Whereas, God bless them, in the case of both Zcash and Monero, more so Monero, they were trying very hard to solve a problem using the technologies they had at the time. Okay, so we'll add a little of this, maybe a little of that, and we got this problem, so maybe we'll do this, and what you end up with is this, you know, Rube Goldberg-y, huge, complicated, kind of impressive machine.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's impressive what they did. I'm glad that they did it, but it's obsolete.
Okay.
It's just obsolete. And with Mimblewimble, what you have is a simple proof that the outputs are equivalent to the inputs. And then to get to the body of it, to know what the actual quantities are, you have to have the key. And if you don't have the key, you can't see it.
Got it. So
it's that simple. It's that simple with Epic Cash. And with Zcash, and especially with Monero, it gets very complicated very fast because the solution that they built is so complicated.
Now, the byproduct of that is that their transaction times are a lot slower, right? Because the chain bulkier. The chain is bulkier, to use mine.
In several ways for several reasons. Yeah.
Okay, so then the design of Epic Cash is ultimately what allows us to be able to even think about having people mine on their mobile devices, just because the blockchain is so light.
Yeah, I mean, the other people are more enthusiastic about mobile mining than I am, and I'm not against it. I'm just neutral on it. To me, mining's going to happen wherever it's economical to happen.
Right.
Okay? Now, maybe that's mobile. I don't really have a strong opinion. Okay. And to be honest, I don't really care, because as long as the mining is being done to the highest difficulty level possible, which requires that it be done in the economically optimal place, then it's doing its job and the coin can advance. Okay. So mobile mining to me is nice. Like if it works, then great. I'm a fan. It's fine. But mobile wallets, to me, are where the real action is.
Oh, unpack that.
Well, mobile wallets are how we're going to give proper digital money to the people who need it. All right? There are two. Money's a service. And in cryptocurrencies, this is really easy to see. This back before cryptocurrencies, those of us who would read like the books from the Mises Institute about like the ethics of monetary production, books like that. Like it was all kind of exotic, but now we can actually point at it, right? Money's a service, and you have producers and consumers. It used to be the producers were the gold miners, right? And the consumers were the whole economy. Well, now the producers are the miners, right? And the consumers are the people with wallets who are holding currency. Okay. Now, in any capitalist system, whom are you trying to serve? You're trying to serve the consumers. Right? You're trying to give people a service that they value, and the fact that they value it is telling you something important. It means it's making society a better place. Right? And like I mentioned this last time we were talking, you know, Uncle, the global banking system demands a monopoly over rich people, and they do not give a shit about poor people.
Right.
The billion plus unbanked people on this planet do not have banking and payment services that allow them to engage in global commerce. Why? Because the traditional banking system can't make any money off them and does not care about them.
Right. Right.
Could not care less. We care. We see customers, people we can serve with a service that creates value in their life, that makes their lives better, that grows global GDP, that advances humanity towards the stars, that brings people into the web of global commerce and lets them honestly work and sell goods and services into the economy, and with pride and dignity take care of themselves the way all of us do, without needing handouts or charity, but through honest, proud work and the ability to find paying customers and sell them things they need. Be that small scale farmers, be that small scale services. Like we are rapidly reaching the end of global poverty. And you can see it in all different kinds of statistics, from infant mortality to per capita GDP, to like caloric intake among the world's poor. And one of the major impediments stopping us from bringing that last person out of poverty is the inability of the unbanked, the global set of poor people who are locked out of the world's financial system and whom the world's banks don't give a shit about.
So Todd, let me ask you a question on that. So there seems to be a lot of interest in Shiba, right? And everybody says, oh, it's going to be the world's currency. I think there's a lot of people that are getting hoodwinked by that because it's really just a token, right, that rides on top of the Ethereum network. But can you explain to our users, like you're doing now, why Epic is more efficient and the transactions are going to be less onerous in terms of, the cost, if you will, on a transaction basis, and speed, right? Because everybody says, oh, Shiba, you're going to be able to use that to go to the movie theaters. And I told Uncle V earlier, I'm like, yeah, if you want to wait a half hour in line for your transaction to go through, and if you want to spend twice the amount of your movie ticket to process it, and then, oh, by the way, if you want the dopamine hit of saying, hey, pay me double to speed it up right now, and then you do that, next thing you know, instead of spending $12 for a ticket, you've spent $80. But can you explain how Epic solves that and why it's better?
Yeah, I mean, for the use case that we were just talking about, Epic is vastly better, right? And why? Well, I mean, if we're comparing it to Ethereum is a Turing complete programming environment, which is like the worst possible place to be on the Chomsky hierarchy. It's the most expensive. It's impossible to prove correctness. And it's designed to allow distributed, very complicated computations to be done in smart contracts. Why in the hell do I need a smart contract to make payment for a movie ticket? Right? Never mind payment into a system that's already vastly overloaded for what it's designed to do, that's really showing its age in terms of capacity and speed and chain size and fees, right? I mean, we already run circles around Ethereum in performance, and it's not even a fair fight because like we're trying to do very different things. Ethereum's the dog that caught the bus, man. Like, hey, what if we had a programmable blockchain? Oh shit! Right? Because they became this like really interesting prototyping ground where people could like quickly, prototype all kinds of interesting, use smart contracts to build different kinds of blockchain-based functionality. And so, like, hats off to them. I'm not anti-Ethereum. I think it's great. But the idea that you would use this expensive, slow, resource-intensive, old, not private system for basic commerce is just crazy. It's just crazy. Why?
No, it makes sense.
Why would you pay 1,000 times the fees that you need to pay and have transactions take 10 times longer and restrict the number of people who can run your nodes by a factor of 1 million? What are you achieving? Like, which of your life goals pushing you closer to exactly?
So why is that? Can you just explain it? Because I mean, I agree with you, and I think that's why I'm so into Epic. But can you explain to the viewers out there how we're able to not have onerous fees? So if you wanted to buy a movie ticket, how it would only cost a couple pennies.
Epic is very simple. Epic is very simple, and it's not designed to be an infinite programmable compute platform the way that Ethereum was. Right? Like it's just payments. It's just payments. And it's designed to be a good payment platform. That's what we designed it for. That's what we continue to engineer it for. We got lots of little prototypes cooking in the lab of how we can make it even faster and scale even higher, right? Because the world needs it. The world needs payments that meet the requirements that have applied for the past 6,000 years, which is, it's really not anybody's business how much money I have or where I spend it. Right? That's been the expectation for the entirety of human history.
Right.
Back to the advent of writing many thousands of years ago, we know that this has always been the commercial expectation for a monetary system across all cultures and across all different business environments, always and everywhere.
So Todd, in the design, when you started out with Max designing this and you wanted to create the perfect coin, you chose the original protocol of the Bitcoin design, and
Bitcoin emission curve,
Yeah. Yes. So can you just educate those who, everybody out there knows about Bitcoin, even if you're a newbie, you've heard about Bitcoin, and it seems like Bitcoin is the king of the hill that will always, always stay there. We are an undiscovered coin by measure with Bitcoin. But why are we better than Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, it's technology. That's like asking why a modern version of Chrome is better than a 15-year-old Internet Explorer.
Okay.
Like, why wouldn't it be, man? Right?
But doesn't the Lightning Network solve for everything that because it has layers? Check it. You should check it out.
No. Anyone done a Shrek meme on that?
So Uncle V, that's a good question, but it jogged something here that I had written down. So Todd Lewis, can you explain to everybody the difference between a layer one chain, I guess, or like that's what Epic is compared to some of the other newer ones that aren't? Like, what's the main difference there? Because I think we hear that a lot. I don't think everybody really understands it.
Oh, girders are like onions. They have layers. We should totally go Shrek when dealing with the maxis who talk about layer one and layer two. Like, we really need to build up our meme library there.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We have the best memers out there, though.
Layer two is an attempt to take a crippled first generation cryptocurrency architecture and rescue it from oblivion by importing the worst parts of the fiat banking system.
Wow.
All right. So we're going to take this primitive, obsolete, bad performing system, and instead of fixing it with innovation, we're going to layer on the very credit risk and intermediation which drove us out of fiat in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then people ask me, so Todd, why don't you like this idea? And I'm like, well, I'd rather fix the underlying problems than add new problems, but maybe that's just me being an asshole engineer. And if you want to take on massive counterparty risk and in order to rescue an increasingly outdated first generation system, like, I'm not going to stop you. I'm really not into controlling other people. That's a big part of what drove me to crypto. I had a political shirt on last time too.
I love your shirts.
It's totally by accident, but now I feel like compelled that I need to come up with a new one every time. Yeah. But if people want to do that, good on them, have fun. For myself, I'd rather fix the underlying problem and just have a chain that's private, fast, high performing, and cheap. Why don't we just fix the chain? Mm-hmm. And that's what we decided to do with Epic.
Wow. So we're at a point. We're a point right now to where I think some price discovery is starting to happen. And from what you just shared with me, I mean, you have Bitcoin that has traded up to, I think, 68,000 or something like that. I don't know where it is now. But because we are Bitcoin, I would say, perfected, we basically took that original design and used modern day tech and solved for all of their problems. There's going to be a point in time, would it surprise you, based upon the emission curve and the fact that our design is after the original Bitcoin protocol, that there may be a flippening in the future of sorts? I know people can't wrap their minds around that, but how can you say there wouldn't be after hearing everything that you have shared? It seems to me like their tech is going to continue to get shittier and age, and ours is fresh, clean, and new. It's just the fact that the world doesn't know about us yet. But when they do, it's engineered, price go up. Yes?
I'm the world's worst promoter. Okay. And the reason for that is, like, I I find I have a lot more happiness in my life when I don't worry about what other people do. All right.
Yeah.
So like, will a bunch of crypto speculators decide to buy a bunch of Epic? Like, I don't only like not know. I don't even care, in the sense that it changes nothing about the decisions I'm going to make in my life. Okay.
Yeah.
But let me spin it around to the other way.
Yes.
Are there things that we are doing to try to make Epic future-proof and get it to a point that it can solve humanity's monetary problems? Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that is something that we control. Right? You can't control whether people are going to come to your concert and clap. You can control whether the music's any good.
Oh, I like that.
So like, man, the crowds will come or they won't come, but we can put in the practice and get good at our craft and make good music. And if we do, we increase the chances that they will. But we also have the satisfaction of knowing that we did the things that we could, and we did the right thing, and we tried to make the world a better place, and we applied our efforts to it.
Yeah.
So now is that going to like deliver hopium and give a bunch of, you know, like FOMO to a bunch of speculators to come rushing to Epic? Maybe not. Sorry. Right?
I don't know. I find it endearing that you know that is your approach, and I actually learned.
But I can tell you what the engineering team does, and that's we sit around and talk about how can we get transactions through reliably and faster, right? How can we get this thing running on $30 devices that are solar powerable for you know, small scale farmers to have access to money? How can we make sure, I'm really proud of this one in Epic. How can we make sure that Epic will be robust against compromising of encryption protocols, right? With our pluggable proof of work algorithms. You know, one of the things that I'm proudest of in Epic that I don't think anyone outside of the core engineering team has ever paid the least attention to or cares about at all is the fact that we put a good automated testing framework in place when we first built Epic, that actually describes usage scenarios in English that people can understand, and then drives tests based on it. And, you know, and things like that will preserve the lifetime of this coin and make it a platform that we can continue to innovate on and improve and drive ourselves towards our mission, which is providing safe and secure and private payment systems to everyone on this planet.
That makes all kinds of sense. And that little platform, that side platform you're proud of, to where the little test bed and such, would that be then where, like, can you share with, a lot of people are interested in V3. We've talked a lot about V3 and how V3, this is where Mike, or my buddy, Mr. P, has educated me on the fact that, you know, in his companies, they talk about roadmaps, they talk about delivering features, but they don't put a lot of dates around them, you know, because he's learned his lesson. Because ultimately, when you do have it in a test environment, and you might be able to either catch something, or maybe you have to put it through a code audit, or maybe you have to document. Can you just walk us through that process of going through different versions and delivering them, and why it may not just be click your heels, Shazam, it's done?
Yeah, so for version 3, Pool Boy took the lead on that. And has done a fantastic job of pulling together a really good set of features for us to release as V3, right? And he had some help. You know, there's a whole team of guys who were working on it. And they did some testing. They got it working. They ran a little test net, and they went around telling everybody, like, yeah, you know, we're done with the new features for V3, which they were. And then they came to me, and, you know, a bunch of us had this talk. We're like, we'd like to actually release this thing. What do we need to do? And it's like, well, we should be a little more careful on the testing, and we probably need to write some documentation, and we need to automate some of the tests. And we probably need to run a public test bed, and we need to make sure we're testing all the features, and we need to document all the features, and we need to do a code review, and we need to do all this stuff. And when we were first running around telling everybody, we, the developer community, V3 is done, like, you know, the code was written. Mm-hmm. And gosh, that's a good start, fellas.
Oh, you just pulled that cake out of the oven, but it's not decorated yet. And
yeah, we gotta let it cool. We gotta put the icing on it.
Yeah.
So Todd Lewis, can you explain the documentation and why that's so important, right? Like you mentioned document, like we need documentation.
For one, the developer team needs the documentation, make sure we're all in agreement on what's in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, how are we going to write a test plan if we don't even know what the expectations are that we're setting with the community? If we tell the community, these are the features, then we need to make sure all those things actually work. So the documentation really needs to be tied to the test plan to make sure that that our mouth isn't writing checks that our ass can't cash. Right? You know, and the other thing too is you really don't want to put a ton of work into developing functionality. It's going to help people use the coin and get value out of it and make the world a better place, and then forget to tell anybody. Right? That's a great way to spend a lot of time and not get a lot of benefit out of it. So you really want to avoid it in both directions. And if you can't document it, you probably can't test it.
Okay.
Right? And if you can't test it, how do you know it works? And how do you know it's safe? Right. And this is something where like the really fun and exciting parts of programming, developers usually master that their first few years of development, right? The first few years, man, you get good at being creative and spinning features and right? It's all of the boring, tedious, and shitty parts that you have to be a 20-year veteran to really be old and grizzled enough to appreciate the importance of, right? So that often makes me the grumpy old man in the room, right? Where everybody else has a bunch of cool stuff and they're ready to take it out. And I'm like, well, you know, but they get to be Tigger and I get to be Eeyore.
Well, that's why we
really should run a second test net and write down our test plan. And someone should independently audit all the code changes. Right.
This is why we say in Todd we trust. I for one, who have people know, heavily invested into Epic Cash, like it's my financial future. It brings me great comfort that you are Eeyore and that you are anal.
Both are important. Both are like I appreciate the hell out of the Tiggers of the world. They're out there banging features, and, like adding a bunch of new functions. It's great. It's great. It takes more than that.
Yeah.
Right. It's not enough, but it's a start, and it's the really important part. So
where are we?
And in none of this do I mean in any way to express any lack of appreciation for all the good work that's gone into V3. It's fantastic.
100%.
Hey,
great.
Hey, Uncle V, I got a question. I have a question for Todd on the subject of testing. So another maxi argument that they make or put down to Epic is, oh, you guys don't have any volume, so you don't even know what's gonna happen to you when you get at scale. I'm assuming that we do a bunch of stress testing and stuff like that, and some of the tests that you're running today. Is that the case? Can you speak to some of that for the community?
Yeah, we have done stress testing, and we've talked about taking it much bigger. I'm trying to remember, in version 1, we did a really interesting stress test that found a bunch of memory bottlenecks. I can't remember what it was. We're live streaming, so I'm not going to sit here for 60 seconds to try to remember. We have found and fixed numerous performance bottlenecks. Okay. The reason we don't drive it any further is at this point, the performance limits on the system are so vastly above our usage rates, right? I mean, we have so much headroom. It's the opposite of Bitcoin. We've got just incredible room to grow, right? That we really want to focus on reliability. We want to focus on features. We want to focus on security, and we want to focus on robustness, right? And that's really where more of our attention is focused, because that's the thing that we think is going to make a bigger difference in the long-term success of the coin.
So you had mentioned that mobile wallets are going to be a game changer. So the mobile wallets, I think the only thing in the way of those being spun up is the release of V3, right? So is there any, and I know no need for dates, but can you give us any insight to the process? I know that you went through the internal audit, you did it twice, and then you're documenting the code. As you're documenting, can you explain to the uninitiated, those of us who just don't know, what does it mean by documenting the code?
I mean, it's just writing the release notes and extending the system documentation for new features. Okay.
So would that be, so I presume that when you release something, then you need to, well, let me back this up. If we want to be able to engage with ultimately other blockchains or wallets or projects, then.
Well, and yes, right. So you just triggered me for something that's an important nuance here.
Yeah.
A lot of the documentation is for people who are making wallets on top of Epic, or people who are running exchanges on top of
exchanges. Yes. Yes.
Okay? So both the wallets and the exchanges hide a lot of the underlying complexity from the user.
Right.
But we need to explain to them how to access the new features, how
Bingo.
to, right? So that the button that you're pressing in the app is hooked up to the machinery on the back end, and it all works in the right way.
Yes. So if you don't properly go through the documentation and you hand it to Bitmart, let's say, or to the next exchange, and you say, here you go, it's done, and there's no documentation, they would have to reverse engineer it to try to figure out how to plug into the right place. And that opens up great opportunity for, I would think,
problems.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Well, and this is a big part of what we're struggling with, because that's the state that it was handed off to us in, right?
Yeah.
It's, here's a bunch of code with a bunch of new features, and we're trying to do all this stuff, the cleanup and the documentation and the testing, so that the people downstream of us don't have to do it.
Right. So this is a big deal, what we're talking about right now. And I just want to say thank you for being the Eeyore in this very important part of the process. And I'm not even joking here, because this is going to keep our financial futures safer. I would say not completely safe, because I don't know the future, but by going,
it'd be a mistake to drive it to formal assurance and 100% certainty, because it would take too long, right? It's a balancing act in terms of how far to drive it.
Right.
But we do want it to be reasonable. Right.
Indeed. So in that process, you're now going through your formal documentation process, right? And are you feeling pretty good about it? Are you?
Yeah, we feel and we've done the code review, so we know all the changes, and we've looked at every line of change, and it looks good. The compatibility between V2 and V3 is something that we really want to be certain on, because we don't want the chain to grind to a halt because of an incompatible feature that we didn't notice, right?
Okay, there you go.
Or an incompatibility that's only triggered in an edge case,
right?
So, like in our testing, it works fine, blah, blah, blah. But if someone puts just the right kind of transaction through with just the right mix of block combinations, and it goes into just the right slot to unlock the bug, then is it going to lock up the chain, right?
I see.
And this is the kind of analysis that, when you tell people the development work is done, like it is, you wrote the feature. Now, is it safe?
Right. Yes.
It's a different question. So this, I think, is where a lot of the mismatch is coming with people like hearing that V3 is done and then not seeing it be immediately released. Is we do want to make sure that we're keeping it appropriately safe and we're not accidentally going to blow up the world.
Well, I like that.
Maybe we're being too cautious and maybe it's taking longer than it needs to. It's quite possible. But I don't think so.
And
Well,
Todd,
you're dealing with people's money, right?
yeah, right.
Like, where's the rush, right?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't I try to do a thorough job and do it well, right?
No, do it. Like we can't afford to have a mistake. Literally, you can't afford to have a mistake.
Oh, we could.
And then the other piece you mentioned was the API. The API documentation.
Okay. We could afford it, but we don't want to, right?
No, I don't want to lose any money. I don't know about you guys, but I like holding.
No, but dude, like that, you're. But having the chain lock up doesn't entail losing any money.
Right, I understand. Yeah.
All right. I mean, we're not talking catastrophic failure modes here.
Got it. That's good clarification.
We're not talking anyone losing their coins. We're talking about, maybe the chain goes offline for a day or two while we have to back out this incompatibility notice.
Right.
And no one wants that, man. No one wants that.
No.
Right? And we'd much rather be patient and go and do the grindy, boring analysis work to try to make sure now that it's safe than have to have an emergency later where the whole world has ground to a halt and we're running around with our hair on fire trying to fix a big mess that we could have avoided.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Now, can you give us a little insight into ECK? Because doesn't that then become a different kind of playground where you could do some stress testing on the blockchain?
It does, and different people have different agendas for what ECK is. So I don't want to speak too broadly to it. But this is the ECK that is the Epic Cash beta network, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay, good. That's mostly what it has been. We've got a lot of innovations that we think would be fantastic to have in beta and ready to go. Okay. Now, we don't even necessarily ever want to release them to the production network, but we want to have them ready. And after I let this dog in, I'll give you an example. So kvetch amongst yourselves.
Okay, we will kvetch. And Mike, I know you have a hard stop at 5:30, so we will we'll wrap things up. I think we made a lot of progress it's just always great to get the right and left side of Todd Lewis's brain. So it's 5:23. Mike, you have a hard stop.
Can I give you that one example?
Yes, please. Please.
All right. So from the beginning, we built Epic with modular proof of work. Okay. Most blockchains just have a single proof of work algorithm. But if you've been around crypto long enough, you know that crypto systems get broken from time to time. And it's often a surprise when it happens. So we didn't want a break in the crypto system to destroy our blockchain the way that it would destroy most other blockchains. So what we did was we modularized the proof of work and we built an algorithm such that the algorithm changes from block to block in a predictable and controllable way. And then we can adjust the mix of algorithms and potentially swap them out if there's a problem. Now, everybody else can do this too, but they're going to have to go and have to do deep surgery inside their chain. For us, it's just a config file change. Pow, and we're done, right?
Wow.
So one of the things that we're really interested in having working on a test net is experimental use of secondary proof of work algorithms. And for me personally, especially the new quantum resistant algorithms that the NIST is doing. There's a lot of interesting work being done on algorithms which are designed to be robust against quantum computers. Now, is this necessary today? No. Is confidence in those algorithms really high today? Not really. They're still research algorithms, okay? But I would be thrilled for us to have, 1 or 3 of these quantum resistant algorithms getting 5 or 6% of the blocks on our testnet. Right. And the code's there and it's working and we've used it for years and we know that it works. And if we had a breach, like, someone has a quantum computer breakthrough and all of a sudden reams of crypto algorithms are compromised. Okay. Man, in that case, it'd be really nice to have that machine gun sitting on a shelf. You can just pull it down and shoot from
Well, I hope everybody's paying attention to that last part, and I hope everybody is appreciative of the forward vision that Todd and team has, which is really cool, which makes me feel very secure. I hope it makes you feel secure too. Mike, I know you have a hard
I just appreciate the machine gun, Todd. I appreciate the machine gun. So.
I'm on brand, man. So.
Pooch knows I'm not a gun guy, so.
You're a 1,000 gun guy. Hey, listen, I do have to go. Todd Lewis, this was awesome. I learned a lot.
Likewise, man. It's been great. We should do it again.
Absolutely. It's so fun having you on the show, and everybody really, really enjoys it. So we'll do it again. We'll make it a regular rhythm. And Mike, I appreciate you being Mr. P. I appreciate you being on as well. I know you're traveling. Yeah, this was great. I hope everyone in the chat had a good time. Sorry we didn't look and answer any questions from the chat, but we'll get that next time. Matter of fact, Todd, Pooch and I were talking about at some point in time, maybe we set up a live stream to where we can drop a live stream link into the chat. And then people, if they wanted to come on air, say hello, remain, keep your video off if you want, but you would be in there and we could have a Q&A from the community that would be, instead of us just asking each other questions, we could have the community asking questions. And I think that could be pretty cool. So if you guys are open to it, I'll start thinking about that and planning something.
Ask me anything, man. The worst that happens is I say I have no idea. So
yeah, that's right. And we already know that Mr. P has no idea, but and I only say that to him, guys. We've been working together for 25 years.
Man, once you rebuild the chain in VB, we're going to just be routing all the questions to you, man. It's going to be great.
Yeah, baby. When you talking, when you see a Pooch, I know you got to leave.
I got to go.
All right.
Take care, guys.
See you, bud.
Bye.
Yeah, Todd, I know when you were talking about the new quantum, I can't remember how exactly you said it just a few minutes ago, but I was just
quantum resistant cryptography algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that I was reading up on that last night. I usually read that type work before I go to bed, and I'm right there with you, man. I think we're on the same page. It'll
put you to sleep, that's for sure. So.
Well, I'm glad it put someone to sleep. I sure don't want to be thinking about it, but I'm glad our lead tech thinks about it in his own sleep. So everyone in the chat, thank you for coming. This was great. We had a really good turnout tonight, Todd. So that's usually because of your shirts. And thank you. We can't wait till the next one. But seriously,
just be a Metallica shirt next time.
All right, buddy. Okay, man.